What's going on, beautiful people of the internet? Okay, so in today's video, I want to talk about a new series that I want to create. And this is going to be the very first episode of this series. It is going to be called The Revisit. Now, this is not a new concept. This is something that people do quite often, especially if they're doing reviews and buying new gear and things like that. I want to revisit things that I've actually talked about in the past that I haven't given much attention to for a very long time. But I do want to go a little bit more into detail, especially like explaining, well, why I picked the camera, how is it holding up in my life, am I using the camera? Those are the things that I kind of want to explain, like, and just being truthful, like, am I using the camera? Am I not using the camera? Giving you an explanation of why I'm not using the camera and what am I using in return of that camera or besides that camera. So this episode and this series is inspired by the Canon Powershot V1. It just hasn't really got a lot of love from the big creators anymore. And rightfully so, because guess what? There's so many great cameras coming out in 2025, and hopefully it's not over, even though it's November, the beginning of November. Hopefully we'll get an announcement from Sony responding to all the craziness we've had. Now, obviously, we know Sony has come out with the FX2, but yeah, not too many people was really excited about that camera. But anyways, yeah, like I just mentioned, this episode / series is inspired by this beautiful camera here. So let me talk about it. Let's get started. Let's talk about this camera. Now, why did I want this camera? I wanted this Canon Powershot V1 simply because I really enjoy smaller cameras. In the Powershot genre, or whatever you want to say at that, I like smaller cameras. I owned the Canon G7X Mark II. It was one of my favorite cameras, and it's still one of my favorite cameras of all time, simply because it was one of the few cameras that had internal NDs for under $1,000. Hell, let's just say under $4,000 at this point, because not too many people are coming out with cameras under $4,000 or $6,000, or under under $4,000 that have internal ND filters. The Canon G7X Mark II, G7X Mark III, and a few of the Sony point-and-shoot cameras before the RX100 Mark VII had internal NDs. It was very special in my opinion. But that was about as far as I went as far as point-and-shoot cameras. My last point-and-shoot camera from Canon was the G7X Mark II. I never purchased the Mark III because I started to realize by looking at other people online, the autofocus was not that good. So I went and purchased the RX100 Mark VII. Now, I didn't really like the RX100 Mark VII. I'm just going to be completely honest. Even though I am a Sony shooter, all my other cameras are Sony, I just didn't like it. I loved the whole G7X Mark II and what it looked like. And the real feature that I loved the most was the time-lapse feature, how it just made the movie. I could take that freaking file and it's already ready to play in my on a timeline somewhere. Now, I know since then Sony does that now, but back then Sony did not do that, okay? They didn't even have time-lapse mode in most of their cameras. That was back in the day. But anyways, I was excited for this camera because, again, I own the G7X Mark II. I love the fact that it had ND filters. This has ND filters. I still love the time-lapse feature. I loved how small this is. All of those things are the reasons why I was really excited about this particular camera. This has a freaking fan in it to keep it cool. It's awesome. This is 10-bit color. Caveat to that 10-bit color, but it does 10-bit color. So for those reasons right there, I was really excited about this camera, and I just wanted to purchase it. And I'm going to be completely honest. This camera, I've never been excited more about a camera than this particular small camera. Again, you're watching me on an FX3 right now. I have an A7S III. I have the Blackmagic full frame. I have the A7 IV, A7S III, all those different cameras. But this little small camera just did it for me for some reason. Now, Having this camera for 6-7 months, it's not without issues. There are some things I wish was different about the camera. And so let's talk about that right now. Now here's the deal. As much as I love the ND filter in this thing, you will quickly understand, even with the G7X Mark II. But back then I didn't really know much about like settings and things. But as you learn these cameras, you realize just that one ND filter, because it's a 3-stop ND filter, it's a fixed ND filter. It's not enough. Back then, I didn't have a problem cranking my shutter speed or cranking the f-stop, you know what I mean? But now I'm just like, oof, I don't really want to do that. Now I can see with my own eyes, like the jitteriness of the framing or of the video when you cranking your shutter speed. It looks really awful. So like that is one of the issues with this camera. The one stop of the 3 stops of ND is just simply not enough. The fixed ND, I wish there was more. I wish they would give you like a 3 and a 5. So that way I could at least just crank my shutter speed. I'm sorry, not shutter speed, my f-stop to like an f8 or something like that. And here's the deal about these cameras. You're not going to get much shallow depth of field with these smaller cameras like this. It's just not possible. But anyways, yeah, that's one of the things I would say I wish, man. And that, matter of fact, that's a good segment into what I have done to actually combat that. So I have this particular adapter on it. This is the JJC filter adapter and lens cap kit, right? So I'm assuming the JJC is the people that make this, or the company that makes this. It simply just sticks onto the front of your lens here, and it allows you to thread on a 58 millimeter ND filter or polarizer or mist filter or whatever you want to put on there. I chose to go with an ND filter to help out, because this again only has one ND filter, a fixed 3-stop ND filter. So this helps out a lot. Okay, let's move on. Let's talk about my biggest gripe about this camera, and that is the stabilization. That is the one thing I'm just like, oh, that sucks. It really sucks. For some reason, when Canon does digital stabilization, it's just not good. And this Canon Powershot V1 is no exception. It is not good. It is just extremely wobbly in the corners. And I feel like the more you put on there, like if you put the enhanced stabilization on it, I feel like it just gets worse. So a lot of times what I try to do to combat that, I simply just try to lock off my shot. I don't try to walk with this camera too much, even though I feel like I should be able to. With my RX100 Mark VII, it doesn't have the best stabilization in the world, but at least it's not as bad as this camera. Again, that is the one thing I'll say I just don't like about this camera. Okay, let's move on. The next thing. Again, these next two things are just small little gripes. Nothing major, but I don't like the fact that Canon continues to take off the leveling tool when you record. I just think that is the silliest thing in the world. Is it a deal breaker? No, it's not that. It's a big deal. No, it's not a big deal. It's more of an annoyance. With all my Sony cameras, the leveling tool stays there. I think, if I never knew that existed, then it wouldn't be that big of a deal. But it's a big deal because, again, I've owned other brands and it stays when you hit record. Okay, last but not least, it is the 10-bit color. I love the 10-bit color. I love C-Log 3. But the unfortunate part about it is, not really unfortunate, again, a pet peeve, is the fact that you only get 10-bit color in C-Log 3. Now, here's the thing. C-Log 3 is extremely easy to color grade. And I think that's the whole purpose of C-Log 3. And I get some people are going to say, hey, well, what's the point of giving you 10-bit color in any other picture profile? Well, I like F-Cinetone. I know it has its issues, but it's about 80% there. You will have to do a little bit of color correction as far as temperature wise, because it shifts a little bit, but I like the fact I don't have to spend a lot of time color grading with that. So that's one of my things, a little pet peeve. I wish you could have a different picture profile that had 10-bit color. Other than that, there's not many other gripes I have about the camera that I can think of. I need more time with the camera. Now, let's talk about this. Let's talk about, do I actually use the camera? And I'm going to be honest with you. I've used the camera about a handful of times in 6 or 7 months. And there's a good reason for that. I have a bunch of full frame cameras. I spend a lot of time outside of YouTube making content for other people and making podcasts for other people that, to be honest, something like a Powershot, small little compact camera doesn't really suffice. I need larger cameras that can run indefinitely, that have larger HDMI inputs. So do I use it that much? No. Now, the whole intentions of me buying this camera was to use it for personal use, clearly. These cameras are personal use cameras, like for YouTube and things like that, or for going out with the family and taking pictures and documenting your life. I just haven't done that. And I'm going to be honest, I have not done that. I thought I would do that. I thought I would get outside the house and actually make content with this camera, and this would be the only thing I take. I like being able to, here, give me a second. I like being able to take a little sling like this, because this holds everything. This holds the camera. It holds my little small DJI mics. It holds my K&F Concept little filter that threads onto the front. It holds everything. And this is just a little sling I throw over here, and it's not that bad to carry around. This is fairly easy when I'm wanting to use such a camera like this. But here's the problem. Although I like how small and compact it is, I have 2 kids. And so I don't really use it for personal use or for taking video of the family. Why? Because of this smartphone. I have 2 kids, like I just mentioned. So I have a 10-year-old and a 4-year-old. My 4-year-old is nonverbal right now. He doesn't halfway listen to us, and he will run off in a heartbeat when he gets excited. So having something like this camera with a sling, or just having it dangling off my arm, you know what I mean? It can be stressful adding extra things to have to worry about. So for a lot of times, I decide not to bring it because I have so many other things going on when we're going out. I don't want to forget it. I don't want to leave a $900 camera sitting on a table somewhere for someone else to enjoy. We work hard for our money, like you do, and I don't want to be a fool and just leave it somewhere. So I always have a fear of taking this camera with me. But here's the thing. Like I mentioned in the earlier part of this video, this camera inspired this series. I am going to make a conscious effort to actually use this camera. I don't want to sit in front of this camera like this anymore. Well, not as often, I would say. I want to get out and explore the world. I want to do other things. Now, it might be a little difficult for me to do that simply because I have 2 kids in school, and my biggest fear, especially for my 4-year-old, because anything can happen. He's in preschool, and we know how dangerous children are when they're young like that. They're very adventurous. They're very curious. They're little daredevils, especially young boys. I'm always in fear of going somewhere and being too far away from the house because I'm literally like 3 minutes away from the preschool. So it's hard for me to want to get out and do something, especially not have access to a car. A lot of times I like to bike. I just have been in fear of biking at the moment simply because I don't want to be too far away from a car. I don't want to be 15, 20 miles away from my car, and then I get that freaking phone call that every parent dreads, that your child got hurt at school. So that's the thing. But I'm going to attempt. I'm going to try to do things and take it slow, build up my confidence on going outside, and maybe staying close to the car and getting some videos with this thing. So stay tuned. This will not be the last. This will not be the last video about this camera. You're going to see this camera a lot more. I love the camera. I have not forgotten about the Powershot V1. Okay, I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.